Hello friends, welcome to Lukman IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 18th May 2021. Let us see which are the important articles in today's The Hindu newspaper straight away. These are the mains related articles, these are prelims related articles. Let us take overview first of all these articles, then we will discuss them in detail. First, no learning from Spanish flu. So the context of the article, it is the government's failure to understand the human behavior and the kind of human behavior we observed at the world level during this Spanish flu or influenza pandemic of 1918. So the writer is saying that we have not learned the lessons from this dealing of, or we can say management of this Spanish flu during this present COVID-19 pandemic that the world is facing. And yes, the writer is also talking about how India or Indian government also failed to understand human behavior. Okay, so ethics, very important, let's say insights from the ethical perspective also, GS4 paper, and governance, GS2 paper. Then unwarranted arrest. So the context of the article is recently one of the MP from Andhra Pradesh was arrested on the sedition charges, we can say section 124A of IPC, which provides for this sedition charges. So that's why the context is again the writer or this article is analyzing that this colonial era provision which was there during British time, such sedition charges were there for the criticism of the government, and therefore now it is not required and it is also against the freedom of speech and expression under article 19 fundamental right. So yes, this particular provision of IPC section 124 should go. This is how the writer is talking in this article. So GS2 paper polity part very important. Then prioritizing the right to life. The context of the article, it is talking about protecting right to life of the poor people. It is not talking about the health perspective, rather it is talking from the social justice perspective. Right to life of poor people, migrant people, urban, let's say labor. So all these are facing problem during this pandemic time and lockdowns. So how the government has to some extent failed to protect the right to life of the poor people, and it is also providing some way forward. Okay. Is India's Palestine policy evolving? On page number 11, world page from international relations perspective, recently there was address at UNSC on behalf of India and regarding this Palestine-Israel crisis that is going on, conflict that is going on. And there are subtle changes in India's Palestine policy from the earlier policy that we had towards this conflict. What are these? We need to be aware about this follow-up. So international relations, GS2 paper, and some specific articles related to prelims examination. West Bengal government decide to set up a legislative council. So it becomes important to understand from the polity perspective, what is this legislative council in the state as a part of state legislature? How many states do this legislative council have as a bicameral house of legislative legislature, state legislature? So all these aspects, the composition of the legislative council, all these aspects will be covered here. Then why and how of creating a district. Context here is recently Punjab government declared one new district, form new district. So yes, which authority is having, whether state government or central government form, create or alter the boundaries of district, all these things are mentioned or explained here as an explainer. So that becomes important for prelims examination polity part. In the end, some developments related to COVID-19 at national stage and cyclone Tauktae related developments that we are having follow up here. And lastly, daily prelims MCQs based on today's current affairs. Okay, let us go into details of all these articles. First, no learning from Spanish flu. Spanish flu, which is commonly known, termed as this 1918 influenza pandemic. Okay, this influenza pandemic which infected around 500 million people in Europe and North America, that region during First World War, and killed 50 million people, around 50 million people. There were total 3 waves of this influenza pandemic, and the writer is providing very good insight here that after first wave of this influenza pandemic at that time, Spanish flu, there were, yes, during that first wave there were severe lockdowns and restrictions for the movement of people. However, when the cases reduced after first wave, people started to come out and they gathered on a large scale, and they did not followed, or we can say they felt so bad about the quarantine and social distancing measures that they were first lifted. People rejoiced in the streets with abandon. In coming weeks, second wave occurred with tens of millions dead. Can we relate this to present situation of COVID-19 pandemic? Because yes, it is very much relevant, and we have not learned the lesson, both people as well as the government. That means during first wave of pandemic, there were severe restrictions, lockdown were there, and people were feeling so much, let's say, problematic during this quarantine and then social distancing norm. This is frustrating. This is impacting psychological health of the people, and once such lockdown is lifted, people rejoice, come together, they meet their family members, social gatherings happens, marriages, religious ceremonies happen. So because of that, what happened is like immediately there is a second wave. And we have seen during the second wave how the government is not able to control this second wave, and how many people died during a less amount of time here. So this is the situation we are facing, a similar kind of situation that happened during the Spanish flu or this influenza pandemic 1918. Along with that, the government at that time or the officials during this second wave were unwilling to impose restrictions during wartime despite existence of new mutated strain at that time also. Can we relate this same thing at present also, that our Prime Minister said that lockdown should be the last resort that should be applied by the state government? So officials are unwilling to have the restrictions, impose restrictions at that time. Presently also such kind of strict restrictions are not being there. So let us try to analyze and take lessons from this Spanish flu pandemic. One would believe that knowledge makes one wiser. However, in reality, knowledge doesn't change the behavior. Knowledge doesn't change the behavior. That means even people know the importance of social distancing. Even people know the importance of wearing masks. We are not following this important, let's say, COVID-19 appropriate behavior, and that's why we are saying that knowledge doesn't change behavior. Leave apart those who do not know the importance of this such kind of appropriate behavior. Those who have the knowledge, they are also not behaving in an appropriate way. So that means knowledge doesn't change behavior. Along with that, we have to also understand human beings are social animals, and this is said by Aristotle. Aristotle says that human is social, political, benign animal. It seeks to live in the community and not in isolation. Okay, so as we can understand, human being is a social animal. Social ostracization has been shown to cause pain in the brain similar to putting up with physical pain. That means social distancing, isolation or quarantine norms are very much impacting the psychological health of the people. People are considering this pain as similar to physical pain. They do not want to bear this pain, right? So along with that, the government failed to learn from the Spanish flu because they failed to understand and predict human behavior. Okay, the human behavior, yes, human is the social animal. Human is, even though they have the knowledge, that doesn't mean it is reflecting in the appropriate conduct, appropriate behavior. Right. So yes, we can understand that human has some kind of different behaviors, or we can say that the attitude and behavior link in this sense is very important, right? So attitudinal change by the government is very important, and nudge theory is very important here regarding changing the human behavior and making it COVID-19 appropriate behavior. Okay, so that's why the focus should be on IEC campaign, again and again nudging the behavior of the people. This should be implemented here, right? So the government, in, let's say, we can say against to this, the government allowed election rallies, religious gatherings. We have seen the assembly elections, we have seen the Kumbh Mela in Uttarakhand, and we are seeing the situation that these states are facing, West Bengal, Uttarakhand and Tamil Nadu, right? It hesitated in imposing lockdown despite the emergence of new strains of the virus. Right. So it is now proved that WHO chief scientist also said that this Indian double mutant virus is more transmissible. UK government is now let's say looking into this double mutant Indian virus, and its spread is increasing in UK. So again there will be some kind of restrictions, lockdown there in UK. So this kind of situation that the world is facing, and we are not being serious about it. Okay. So the lessons from the Spanish flu and the present COVID-19 pandemic period, you need to relate it. We can expect such kind of question in mains examination, GS4 paper. Governments failed to manage COVID-19 pandemic largely because they failed to understand and predict human behavior. Now this becomes a very apt question for ethics paper. Human behavior is an important component to, let's say, those philosophers and philosophical ethics. Do you agree with this statement? Justify your view. To some extent we have to also agree with this statement, and then you have to also provide some arguments against here to justify. For example, you have to also understand the failure of, we can say, scientific community also. We have the changing nature of the virus, and all these things are also involved, so that the capacity of the resource mobilization of the government, all these things can be mentioned along with this human behavior, right? Yes. Okay. Now moving on to next article, unwarranted arrest. Now the context of the article, it is talking about the arrest by the Andhra Pradesh police of K. Raghurama Krishna Raju, an MP from Andhra Pradesh, on charges of sedition. Now this sedition is offence defined in section 124A IPC. Against, this has been used against critics of the government and prominent dissenters. So yes, many a times what happens is, for the stability of the government, this particular sedition charges are again and again invoked by the government or the administration. So this is specifically dealing with the untoward criticism of the government policies and the government. So however, this is colonial era mindset. Okay, so this sedition provision was present during the British time period, and many such, let's say, Indian freedom struggle leaders, they were arrested on these sedition charges, right? We know that Lokmanya Tilak was also arrested and charged with this sedition provision under IPC, right? So at present such kind of, let's say, offense or this particular charges is not good, especially for the democratic country like India, wherein freedom of speech and expression as a civic right is promoted from time to time, right? Now why he was arrested? He had referred to alleged rampant conversion activities in the state and attracted provisions under section 153A and 505. However, under these sections the maximum punishment is for 3 years, and Supreme Court in this Arnesh Kumar ruling in 2014 said that there is no need of arrest person for offence that invites prison term of 7 years and less. So that's why this is one of the argument that there should not have been arrest. Second thing, we have to understand that freedom of speech and expression. The democratic country like India should not have such colonial era mindset provision, and therefore it should go away. Along with that, we have to also understand now that it is well known that section is attracted only if there is an imminent threat to public order or there is actual incitement to the violence. These ingredients are generally absent in most of the cases. For example, this one. Then, in addition, it remains vaguely and too broadly defined. The term disaffection is said to include disloyalty and feelings of enmity. Now, who can define such kind of vague terms? And that's why this requires a total reconsideration, this particular charges. And yes, this is the positive gesture of Supreme Court that it decided to revisit the constitutionality of this section already. So yes, in future the Supreme Court may declare this as unconstitutional also. Fine. So you need to be aware about the provision in IPC section 124A and this recent example to mention if the direct question is not asked in GS2 paper polity part, we can expect direct question on this sedition provision also, and how it negates this fundamental right under Article 19 of Indian Constitution and its we can say democratic credentials of the country. Okay, freedom of speech and expression, democratic credentials of the country. Fine. Okay. Now moving on, prioritizing the right to life. So the context of the article, it is talking about the protecting right to life of poor people during pandemic time. Okay, it is not talking about the right to life as protecting life of the people during this medical situation, medical emergency. Rather it is talking about protecting life of the poor people. That means social justice it is talking about. Now we know that under social contract there is moral responsibility on the government as a welfare state to protect the life of the poor people, marginalized sections, vulnerable sections of the society. And we know that the urban and rural poor people during this pandemic time are facing more problem. The impact of pandemic is disproportionately more on these sections of the society. And that's why at the same time dealing with the first wave and now the second wave, the government to some extent failed to protect a right to life of these people. For example, yes, since the state must respect everyone's right to life, it must make vaccine equally available to all irrespective of recipients' capacity to pay. However, the differential pricing policy of the central government, especially towards the as it is itself giving the vaccines free of cost to the poor people. However, now it has asked the state governments and the private hospitals to decide by themselves whether they want to provide free or at certain cost. That means there is differential pricing. We know that the costing of these vaccines, like per dose, it is around 900 or 1000 or 1200. And yes, some states are providing this at free of cost, but there is some limitation on financial capabilities of the states also, right? So this is how we have to understand that irrespective of recipients' capacity to pay, the right to life, that is the vaccine, which is the ultimate solution to this pandemic, should be made available on equitable basis. The access should be equitable. Then at least 90% of the workers are in informal economy with no legal and social protection. They have been denied adequate compensation over past year of lockdowns, restriction and economic distress. There are, let's say, many such surveys which have been done, and it shows that the disproportionate impact on poor people, or we can say the reverse migration that we have seen. Many people died out of income insecurity or food insecurity at that time. Okay, such hardships they faced during that time, and no such compensation, adequate compensation is done. Yes, simply 5 kg of food grains free of cost is not the solution here. This is not adequate compensation, right? Government has remained fiscally conservative also. The government, central government spending over April 2020 to February 2021 shows rise in non-interest expenditure only by 2.1%. that means the consumption expenditure is increasing very less. So that's why it shows that the expenditure of the government on the welfare schemes is very less, cash transfers is very less, to some extent social justice and welfare policies are not up to the mark. At the same time, government spending more on infrastructure projects rather than cash transfers to the poor. So the writer is very much correct in explaining that our focus of the government focus is on spending more and more on infrastructure projects. The view or justification of the government is that it will result into spillover effect and ultimately it will provide the boost to the economy. However, the writer is saying that instead of spending in the such kind of infrastructure projects, rather the government should have given the cash transfers to the poor people, and this would have resulted into the economic activities. As these people will do the consumption expenditure, automatically there will be economic activities. At present, what is happening, the government is providing the free of cost food grains, and these food grains are already available or lying let's say without use in the FCI godowns. So it is not actually propelling any kind of economic activities. Okay, so this alternative provision available, argument available should be mentioned in your answer. Such kind of cash transfers would provide multiplier effects of this public expenditure, would have been much higher if spent on infrastructure projects. Okay, so these are the arguments which are showing that there is failure from on behalf of the government, and now some way forward measures are provided here. Yes, earlier also we discussed about the social justice impact of this pandemic on poor people. Recently we discussed about the working women. So some kind of overlapping regarding giving measures will be there, as we have to understand there is first income insecurity, second food insecurity, third rent problem, and fourth health and education. Poor people at present during lockdown, they are facing these four important problems. Economically, I am saying, first income insecurity is there, lack of loss of livelihood, and then food insecurity because of this. Then there is a rent problem especially faced by the urban poor, and health and education, as social safety nets are not covered. Ayushman Bharat scheme has not been, let's say, covering all these poor people. And education, yes, online education, digital divide, and lack of availability of appropriate infrastructure with the poor households. So these are the basic problems faced during pandemic by the poor people. You should be aware about them, because whatever the way forward you are going to provide is in this area, Okay, so let us try to understand. Enabling expanding production and central procurement of COVID-19 vaccines and distribution to the states, free immunization. This is immediately going to solve the problem of vaccine, equitable vaccine supply. So free of cost to all, universal access to free food grains of 5 kg per month to all those who require it for next 6 months. Do not restrict this particular thing to any particular group of people. Anyone who needs these food grains, they should be provided, and not only for next 1 or 2 months, but for next 6 months, because immediately income or livelihood is not going to be resumed. Then cash transfers of rupees 7,000 per household for at least 3 months to those without regular formal employment. You can write 5,000 or 7,000 also. Yes, increase resources to the ICDS scheme to enable revival, expansion of their programs. Right, so integrated child development services. Again, this is important for both pregnant and lactating women and the children up to the age of 2 years. Okay, this is very important, ICDS scheme. Then making MG Naregas purely demand driven with no ceiling on number of days or the number of beneficiaries per household. At present there is ceiling of 100 days, right? So this is problematic, it should be removed. Covering urban India with such parallel schemes for employment generation. Similar to MG Narega, there should be urban employment scheme also that would cater educated unemployed also. And for this expenditure or resources, the government is providing always, we do not have resources, we do not have resources. The writer is saying that the solution for such resource mobilization lies in only wealth tax. So 1.5% of wealth tax only on top 1% of the households or rich households will adequately raise such amount for, or we can say that, resources for all these particular schemes. So we can understand that India is a socialist country. We have this social, our state is socialist state, which is mentioned in our preamble, and we have these provisions in DPSP's directive principles of state policies, and that's why we have to understand that redistribution of the resources and wealth, this is part of DPSPs, right? So such kind of wealth tax, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic time, is very important, and it can be done by the government. Now, straightforward question can be asked: discuss the measures that are required to be taken by the government to reduce disproportionate impact of COVID-19 pandemic on vulnerable sections of society. Now, the question is broader one. Poor people, or we can say that those working in informal economy, urban poor, domestic workers, they are part of this vulnerable section. But there is wider concept involved. Vulnerable sections will be, women will be vulnerable, old age people will be vulnerable, children are vulnerable. Along with that, yes, Divyang people are vulnerable. So many of the sections are included as vulnerable sections, and surely all of them are facing the disproportionate impact. So you should be preparing for everything here. Vulnerable sections. Already this year mains examination itself, UPSC asked such impact of COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown on the vulnerable sections. Okay, we can expect similar kind of question with changed wordings in GS1 paper, GS2 paper. Now majors in GS2 paper, social justice part. This is important. Okay, yes. Next, is India's Palestine policy evolving? Now, the context of the article is that recently our permanent ambassador to United Nations Security Council recently addressed on Sunday UNSC and provided India's stand on the conflict that is going on between Israel and Palestine. Okay, so what was the earlier stand? Until 2017, India's position was that it supported Palestinian cause and called for negotiated solution resulting in a sovereign, independent, viable and united state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital, living within secure and recognized borders side by side at peace with Israel. This was the earlier stand up till 2017. However, since 2018, our Prime Minister also visited that particular let's say East Jerusalem also. So from that time, to some extent the situation changed, and the present policy that we are having according to this address, this statement of the Ministry of External Affairs, we can understand the changes in the new policy. What are these changes? India reiterates strong support for Palestinian cause and its unwavering commitment to two-state solution. This is common now. Earlier also two-state solution was there, Palestine was there. Now, India considers violence began in East Jerusalem a week back, referring to the clashes in Al-Aqsa compound and East Jerusalem's neighborhood. This means India does not see Hamas rocket firing on 10th May, which followed Israeli forces storming Al-Aqsa Mosque in morning as a trigger of conflict. Okay, so that means the conflict started a week back and not because of Hamas firing rockets. India has expressed a deep concern over violence in Jerusalem, okay, especially during the holy month of Ramzan. India has also urged both sides to refrain from attempts to unilaterally change existing status quo. changes are happening here. India called for status quo relating to East Jerusalem, but the crucial point that's missing in this address is that East Jerusalem should be capital of the future Palestine state. Here we have seen East Jerusalem as its capital, earlier stand, but during this address such stand is not taken, that East Jerusalem should be its capital. This one point you should be aware about. And then the references to Haram al-Ash or al-Sharif come twice, and it says Haram al-Sharif oblique Temple Mount. That is a very subtle way of saying that this is not Palestine narrative. So that means this Haram al-Sharif or al-Sharif and Temple Mount, this is related to Islam and this is related to Jewish or Judaism. So both are having some kind of claims for ancestral temples and mosques there, and therefore we can understand the conflict that is going on there. Yes, in last week we discussed about this Haram al-Sharif and East Jerusalem and what are the complex that is there and the conflict, the evolution of conflict in Jerusalem. We discussed about this in the Hindu analysis. Okay, at present we consider this as the issue or the conflict between these two, and this should be peacefully, amicably solved by these two countries, right? So India is not supporting the Israel claim. India is not supporting the claim of Israel claim, rather India is supporting the claim of Palestine here. Again, however, subtle changes are made at present in the Palestine policy that we have, like East Jerusalem is to be called the capital of the new country or something like that, right? Specifically these are the changes. Fine. So you need to be aware about this international relations and India's stand on this conflict. West Bengal government decides to set up legislative council. Now this is related to prelims examination. Now we know that the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee was not elected during the Legislative Assembly elections, and though we can understand that she is being let's say declared as a Chief Minister, appointed as Chief Minister, but that is allowed under Indian Constitution, that a particular person can be appointed as a minister, Chief Minister or even Prime Minister for 6 months. Beyond such 6 months, if that person fails to get the membership of state legislature, or we can say in case of Prime Minister, Union legislature, then he ceases to be that minister or Chief Minister or Prime Minister. This is the provision in Indian Constitution, and now we can understand that the state assembly elections are over and she is not elected, then how she is going to get membership of the state legislature? And now the West Bengal government has come up with this idea to establish Legislative Council or Vidhan Parishad, and these members of the Council of Ministers like Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, Finance Minister Amit Mitra, they can be easily nominated to Legislative Council once body is set up and will not have to face elections at all. This is the some kind of, let's say, political provisions, polity provisions are there in Constitution. But West Bengal Legislative Council, upper house of bicameral legislature in West Bengal, existed till 1969. However, the resolution to abolish was passed in the state assembly for its dissolution. Okay, and later on it discontinued. Now at present again such kind of proposal is there. Now how and which authority, which particular body can create such kind of Vidhan Parishad? Yes, Parliament can abolish or create legislative council in a state if Legislative Assembly of concerned state passes resolution to that effect. That means now West Bengal Legislative Assembly has to pass one particular legislation for creating such kind of legislative council. Such resolution must be passed by a special majority of Legislative Assembly. This is important, special majority. Then Parliament then passes such legislation by simple majority. Parliament does not require the special majority here. Simple majority, through simple majority it can be created or abolished. It is not considered as an amendment to the constitution under Article 368. Yes, we can understand under Article 368, which provides for amendment procedure for our Indian constitution. It only provides for two types of special majorities. One is a special majority and other is special majority with approval of more than half states of the country. So that is such kind of amendment to the constitution is considered under Article 368. Though this is amendment to the constitution, but it is not under Article 368. Fine. So at present there are only 6 states having legislative council. How to remember these 6 states? You can pair them in 3 pairs. One, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, side by side located. Then Maharashtra and Karnataka, side by side located. Then Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, again side by side located. This is how you can pair them and you can remember these 6 states at present legislative council. Yes, there were earlier 7 states like Jammu Kashmir earlier had legislative council, but through the reorganization of Jammu Kashmir Act 2019, such kind of legislative council is dissolved now. Okay, so at present only 6 states have legislative council. Now what is composition of legislative council? Quickly we can see the composition. The members of legislative council are indirectly elected. Similarly, we can understand like the Rajya Sabha composition, right? So indirect election, method of election is system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. A similar kind of system is used for Rajya Sabha elections also. However, here the composition is very much different, but before composition, let us try to understand the maximum and minimum strength. This provision is there in constitution itself. Maximum strength of the council is fixed at 1/3 of the total strength of the assembly. 1/3 of the total strength of the assembly, and minimum strength is fixed at 40. This is how the maximum and minimum membership of any legislative council can be there. Out of this total numbers of legislative council, there are different, let's say, compositions, or let's say the group of people being elected. For example, 1/3 members are elected by members of local bodies in the state like municipalities, district boards, etc. Then 1/12 are elected by graduates of 3 years standing and residing within the state. 1/12 are elected by teachers of 3 years standing in state in not lower in standard than secondary school. 1/3 are elected by members of legislative assembly of state from amongst the persons who are not members of the assembly. Okay, and the remainder 1/6 are nominated by the governor from amongst the persons who have special knowledge or practical experience in 5 fields: literature, science, art, cooperative movement and social service. 5th one. A similar kind of 12 members are nominated by the president to Rajya Sabha from 4 areas having special knowledge in 4 areas: literature, science, art and social service. This 5th one, cooperative movement, is for state legislative council nominated by the governor. Okay, so 1/6 member are nominated, remaining 5/6 member are elected, indirectly elected. Okay, 1/6 are nominated, 5/6 are indirectly elected. Then duration, like Rajya Sabha, it is also continuing chamber of the state legislature, permanent body, and 1/3 of its member retire on expiration of every 2nd year, and a member continues for membership of, let's say, tenure of 6 years, similar to Rajya Sabha. Fine. This much basic information is important. We can expect question in prelims examination. Why and how of creating a district? Now some trivial information, or we can say general awareness, especially related to polity part, that how a particular district is created and its border is, let's say, altered, its name is changed, which authority and its approval is required. These are important aspects for our examination. Context is Punjab Chief Minister recently declared Malerkotla the only Muslim majority town in Punjab as 23rd district of the state. Okay, that's why it was in news. How are new districts carved? The power to create new district or alter or abolish existing district rests with state governments only. Central government is not having any role here. This can either be done through an executive order of the state government or by passing a law in state assembly. How does it help? States argue that smaller districts lead to better administration and governance. This is important for public administration also. Paper 2 of public administration. Does the central government have a role to play here? Center has no role to play in the alteration of the districts or creation of new ones. States are free to decide. However, Home Ministry comes into picture when state wants to change the name of the district or railway station. Right. So that means we know that recently, in recent past, the name of Allahabad was changed to Prayagraj. Right. So for that purpose, the state government would have required the approval of ministry. Which union ministry? Home Ministry. Along with that, the other central ministries like Ministry of Railways and Posts, and yes, other such ministries which are concerned with the names of the districts or other things, their approval is also required. The state government's request is sent to other department agencies such as Ministry of Earth Science, Intelligence Bureau, Department of Post, Geographical Survey of India, and Railway Ministry seeking clearances, and ultimate approval is given by Ministry of Home Affairs. What has been the trend? According to 2011 census, there was 593 districts in the country, and we know that the present census is still pending. However, according to this Know India website of the Government of India, currently there are 718 districts in India. 718 districts in India at present. Such facts are also important. Okay, so you can remember them. Fine? Okay. And some COVID-19 related developments at national level. Yes, use of convalescence plasma therapy has been dropped from recommended treatment guidelines for COVID-19 by the new advisory of ICMR. Okay, so convalescent plasma therapy is not going to be advised here onwards. The first batch of adjunct COVID therapy drug developed by DRDO, 2-deoxy-D-close, 2DG. It is now launched along with Dr. Reddy's Laboratories in Hyderabad on Monday, released for emergency use. Okay, so this particular drug is launched. Cyclone Tauktae follow-up. Cyclone Tauktae began process of landfall on Gujarat coast around 8:30 p.m. on 17th May. The 6 persons were reported killed in Maharashtra as the extremely severe cyclonic storm with wind speeds of up to 210 km per hour ran parallel to Maharashtra coast and wound to way Gujarat. Okay, so this is cyclone Tauktae. It is going to have landfall today in Gujarat coast. Okay, so yes, for further information about tropical cyclone, on Sunday's newspaper, The Hindu Analysis on 16th May, we discussed in detail about tropical cyclones, why more tropical cyclones are formed in Bay of Bengal as compared to Arabian Sea, the terminologies and system of naming of and categorization of these tropical cyclones, at the same time basics like what are the preconditions for the formation of tropical cyclone and the structure of tropical cyclone, and then the local names of these cyclones where they are formed in different oceans. Okay, all this information is covered on the Hindu Analysis of 16th May 2021. Okay. Yes, some practice MCQs that we are providing on daily basis on this, whatever the discussion that we had. So try to solve these MCQs. Two MCQs that we have provided here. This particular PDF is available in the description link we have provided for downloading of this PDF in description of this video. Along with that, the explanation and the model answer of these MCQs is provided on daily basis in our Telegram channel. So you subscribe and join to Telegram channel of Lukman IAS, and to receive this particular video along with other important input material on the daily basis, subscribe to Lukman IAS YouTube channel also. Okay, yes, these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. We know that UPSC has deferred its prelims examination to 10th October, and yes, you have still time for your covering of men's examination preparation, and for that purpose Lukman IAS has started with test series for general studies, essay paper and public administration optional. Along with that, subject wise test series of ethics and polity paper, GS2 paper. So to know about those test series, when they are starting, the fee structure and everything, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.